everyone, and welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I'm in a different location. I'm currently in Texas on vacation, and I am cleaning out a lot of the books in my old room. So because of that, I have a huge book unhaul for you, except that it's kind of too big, so it's going to be split up into different parts, and I'm going to be releasing these unhaul videos at sort of spaced intervals so that you're not just inundated by unhaul videos. But I don't know if you can see, this is kind of the state of my shelf where it is right now. Right now I feel like it's pretty much really well organized, and I'm quite happy with it, and I'm quite happy with what I'm keeping and whatnot. But there's still a lot to do, basically. So anyways, we're in a new location. I can't control the lighting. I can't control the outside noise as I usually do in my old apartment, so we're gonna have to deal with what we do. So today, basically, I wanted to do an unhaul video featuring books about Japan and from Japanese authors. Typically, I don't unhaul books about Japan. I like having all my Japan books, my Japanese collection together, but these I just felt I can get rid of at this point. We're gonna start off with Almost Transparent Blue by Murakami. This is actually the first book I ever read in Japanese, and actually that is the reason why I'm getting rid of this, because I've read this book. I actually read it concurrently with the Japanese version, but because I have the Japanese version, I figured I can let go of the English translation. But it's an excellent translation. I'd highly recommend it. There is one thing at the back. In the original translation, there's a letter that was in the original that's not in the translation, which I never understood why, but there's no updated translation, so that's it. But it's the only thing, when I was reading it, it's the only real comparison I could make between the original and the translation. But this is not a book for everyone. It's about basically the underground of Japan, as Ryu Murakami specializes in so well. But basically it's a lot of drugs, it's a lot of sex orgies, like, so if you don't want to read about any of that, this is not going to be the book for you. But if you're a Murakami fan, this is a good one to go for. But yeah, I'm getting rid of this only because I own the Japanese version and I'd rather keep the original than the translation. Next book I'm getting rid of is The Devotion of Suspect X by Keigo Higashino. This is an ARC Advanced Reader's copy, so this might not be what the final copy ended up being. But I actually was given this book before it came out way back in the day when I used to do ARCs. But yeah, this is actually, out of the two Higashino books that I've read, this is the one that I actually really enjoy. I wouldn't necessarily give this away, but when it comes to murder mystery or thriller books, once you've read it, you kind of know it, and I feel okay with getting rid of these, even though it's by a Japanese author. Next book I'm giving away is Zoo by Otsuichi. Once again, this is the English translation of basically, this is actually separated into two separate books in the original Japanese. There's Zoo 1 and Zoo 2. This is all of them together. But I've already read both Zoo 1 and Zoo 2 in the original Japanese, and I own them, so there's really no need for me to keep the English translation. But once again, I mean, Otsuichi is really like good short story horror writer, or horror short story writer. He also does full-length like novellas, but these are his short stories, and he's really good. So if you really like horror, or you like suspense, especially if you like a very long written tension that only towards the end kind of gets like, not even released, but just kind of explodes on you, he's really good with that. So only getting rid of this because I already have the Japanese versions. So next book though is a book that I absolutely hated, and that is the book called Shot by Both Sides. It's by Meisei Goto, and this book I just hated. It's about a man who, I don't remember, but all I remember basically is like, he's walking around Tokyo remembering his childhood, but it is so long-winded. Basically, you're constantly bombarded like with paragraphs that are basically, oh, I left my coat on the at the bridge, or like I left my gray coat at the bridge, or was it a brown coat? Maybe it wasn't a coat at all. Maybe it was a sweater, and maybe it wasn't a bridge. Maybe it was a bench. But if it wasn't a bench, then maybe it was, raining. So maybe what I really forgot was my umbrella. And turns out I might not have even been there that day. So it's just like these super long-winded paragraphs that just keep going and going, where he like keeps changing his mind, which is basically kind of what should make this book interesting, because if it's a book about your memories but you keep changing what your memories are, then basically it's like an inconsistent narrative the entire time. But I was so bored by this. I just don't like this. I don't know anyone else who's ever read this to begin with. I've never, his books have never stood out to me in Japan either, in terms of the original Japanese. I've never noticed his books, so I'm getting happy to get rid of that one. Another book I'm getting rid of is 7 Japanese Tales by Junichiro Tanizaki. I have not actually read this, but I just don't want to read short stories right now. So, and I've had this for way too long, and I still haven't picked it up, so I'm just going to let go of it. Another book that I'm letting go is Transluscent Tree by Nobuko Takagi, translated by Deborah Iwabuchi. This is also one of those books that pretty much no one has ever read. It's like this really obscure English translation. The translation is not obscure, but like it's a kind of obscure translation by, who even publishes this? Who was the publisher? Vertical? Yeah, Vertical Press. This was translated in 2008. I know no one else who's ever read this. But if you want like a sexual romantic story, like this is for you. It was actually well done. I enjoyed it. It's not really my type of reading in general, but it was very well done. But the thing is that I've never felt a need to go back to this or read this. The cover's really cool though. It's transparent. So there you go. But I think you can get the imagery about the cone and the pine leaf. I think you can get it. It's a very sexual book. But yeah, I'm perfectly fine with getting rid of this. So that's what I will be doing. Another book I'm getting rid of is The Floating World in Japanese Fiction. I believe I had to read this in college. I think I read a few excerpts, if not the whole thing. It was excellent. It's just sort of a not too academic, but academic literary criticism, and it's good. It's perfectly good. It's just not something I need to own anymore. So there's that. Then we have the Oxford Book of Japanese Short Stories. This is actually an excellent collection of short stories. I've read quite a few. It has some of the most amazing Japanese authors in here: Natsume Souseki, Nagai Kafu, Tanizaki Junichiro, Kawabata Yasunari, Ibuse Masuji, Abe Kobo, Endo Shusaka, like all of those, the most amazing authors. Yoshimoto Banana, like Tsushima Yuko, I mean, all really, really, truly amazing authors. But the thing is, like, I pretty much already read all of these, and I just don't need it, But it's an amazing, really, really great collection. Definitely recommend this one, even though I'm getting rid of it. So you can pick it up at Half Price Books in Austin if you want it. Next are 2 books that are about Japan, but not by Japanese authors. The first one is Hikikomori and the Rental Sister by Jeff Backhaus. This was actually quite good. I'm always kind of hesitant reading books that feature Japanese characters, but written by non-Japanese. I'm always hesitant with that kind of stuff. It goes with like any sort of any nationality. I feel the exact same thing. This is not limited to Japan. But I thought this was quite good. It's basically there's a family with a Hikikomori in their family. Hikikomori is basically this phenomenon in Japan where people just kind of just shut themselves in their houses and they just don't leave whatsoever. Usually these people are aided by their family who provide them food, but basically it's like leaving the food at their door, and then the person waits until no one's there to pull it, eat it, then like leaves the plate out. But these people just don't They just don't want to go out in the world anymore. They just refuse to. And basically, the rental sister is this woman who provides a service that basically that helps people kind of get out of this situation. And I actually thought this was quite well done. It was I thought it was faithful to the idea of Hikikomori. I thought the idea of the rental sister was well done. I think it dealt well with sort of the social and but also the mental aspects of the idea of being a hikikomori, and I think it was quite well done. So I definitely do not recommend this. Like this, if you want to read this, definitely you should, because I thought it was really well done. But another thing about me keeping books at my home is the idea that in the future, if I just move again, I just don't want to have too many books to move around, and also I'm trying to keep books that I feel like people in my family might want to read or like pick up. So, you know, if I thought I never would have to move ever again, I would probably keep that book, but there's just no need for me to do it right now in my life. Next book is a book I actually don't really want to get rid of, but I've decided I'm getting rid of all my hardcovers of books just because I just don't really want them around anymore, and that's Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. Now, yes, there's a lot of controversy. It's a white man writing about a geisha in Japan. Once again, goes back to that whole idea of foreigners writing about Japanese people in Japan. And the thing is, I'm never not going to not recommend this book. I thought it was an excellent book. It was fun. I thought it has a dramatic impact, an emotional impact. I think it gives you, a very interesting look at the geisha world. Now, is it written by a white man? Yes, it is. Did the woman who was interviewed by Arthur Golden to help write this book, did she get mad at the book eventually and write her own memoir? Yes, she did. But in terms of an introduction to Japanese culture, if this is your introduction to Japanese culture, then why not? Like, I mean, the French author Alexandre Dumas writes all these historical fiction books that are not faithful to French history, but they're just fun and they're well written, and I think this is kind of what that is. Should you take all of your geisha knowledge from this book? No, you shouldn't. But is it entertaining? Does it sweep you away? Is it fun to read? Yeah, and if it's your introduction to Japanese culture, then all the better. Like, if after this you're going to read memoirs and fiction and other fiction and nonfiction about the topics and other topics in Japan, then yeah, go for it. Like, I will not recommend this book. I still stand by it. I still think it's a good book, and I would keep it, except it's a hardback, and I'm getting rid of it. That's all. So yeah, those are all the books that are Japan related that I am unhauling from my room. Stay tuned with my next video where I will be going through another pile of books. So yeah, whenever that comes up, it'll come up. So I look forward to seeing you then. Bye!